1, 2, a 1, 2, 3. Hey everyone, Tony Winston, comping the B-flat blues, and in this video I'm going to cover everything I can think of about a B-flat blues, kind of in the jazz style. I'm going to start with something you might get like in a middle school or early high school big band, where piano players are called upon to play these rootless voicings, or they're not all rootless, but some of them are. And a lot of times I think, you know, the piano players playing these, they don't really understand what's going on. They're playing a chord like this, and many times on the chart it won't even have the chord symbol above it. It'll just have this, and you know, without realizing that's actually a B-flat 7th chord with what is that, a 13 and a 9. You know, they don't really know what they're playing, but it's okay. I mean, you're getting the sound of it in your ears, and that's the important thing. But in this video I'm going to cover some of these rootless voicings. I'm also going to cover the blues scale and how to improvise with it, and I'm going to get into everything. Okay, I'm going to get into the altered scale, the diminished scale, pentatonic scales, reharmonization, anything I can think of before I have to turn off the cameras and actually teach a real live student. So here we go. Let's go over the blues scale first. All right, this is one of the harder blues scales to play on the piano because it's got so many black keys on it. And you know, we're taught not to put our thumb on a black key when we can avoid it, but of course, you know, there's lots of times when we got to put our thumb, and this is one of those spots, I think. So a good fingering is 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then, you know, you want to put 4 there, but if you want to keep going up, put your thumb there again. So you got to, like that. Now coming down, it can be the same. But a lot of times when you're improvising, you're going to end up on fingers you didn't plan on being on. So it's okay to do different fingerings. Or maybe crossing with 4 there, like that. And that's, you know, similar to like the C blues scale, where you cross with 4 and come down like that. So that's a good fingering as well. You know, start with 3, 2, 1, crossover with 4. Then I guess cross with 2 or 3, but put your thumb down there. And then, you know, let's talk about a couple little blues riffs that you can do. You know, don't forget that that's a kind of a typical blues thing, so you can bend that note. You go up there like that. You can do it this way. You can go, do these little kind of wiggly things on the 7th chords. So I'm just going like that, right down the 7th chord, and then a diminished chord back up to there. See? So some kind of stuff like that. You know, just trilling on a couple of notes like that. And see, that time I put my 4th finger there and it worked out. Now, a few other notes that aren't in the blues scale, or at least not this blues scale, that are useful is the third. And when you get to E flat here, you know, it won't sound right. I mean, it doesn't sound right to me. It might sound right to you, but try not to do that. But, you know, in B flat, it's okay. And then, you know, other notes you can use. You know, the G is okay, and that'll work in the E flat as well. All right, you've got to understand the blues form. Now we're going to take one bar of B flat and go to E flat. Hey everyone, Tony Winston here. Last week when I was doing this video, I was getting ready to explain the form of the blues, and then I got kind of sidetracked and I never did it. So let me go ahead and do it right now. You know, it's a 3-line form, right? You've got 3 lines of 4 bars each. And in its simplest form, the first line can be all the root key. In this case, we're in B flat. So if you see my milk cow, won't you drive her on home? 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3. If you see my milk cow, won't you drive her on home? 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4. So that's the first 2 lines. And then the third line usually has a different lyric and usually goes to the 5 chord. I ain't had no cream or butter since my milk cow's been gone. And then there's like a turnaround right there. So you got 3 lines, 4 bars each. Now, the jazz blues is usually more complicated. For instance, we'll go to the 4 chord right away. If you see my milk cow, won't you drive her on home? And then on the 4th measure, you really kind of set up, you know, by using a strong 7th chord to get to B flat. I mean, to get to E flat. If you see my milk cow, won't you drive her on home? So that's the 2nd line, and I went to E flat, back to B flat. And you'll see after I sing the line, there's usually a couple of bars where there's just instrumental, and that's called like the response, the call and the response. You sing, you play. Last line. And now let's talk a little more about the jazz blues. Instead of going to the 5 and then the 4, we're going to go to the 2, and it can be a minor or it could be a dominant also, and then the 5. And then we have 2 bars to do a turnaround. And the turnaround is usually something like a 1, 6, 2, 5. We call that a walk around the block. All right, so let me go over it again, and you know I'm going to keep bringing some like variations to the chords, but we're gonna pick one variation to stick with today and just really work on that. So we're going to start with the 1 chord. If you see my milk cow, then go to the 4 chord. Won't you drive her on home? And then here on the 4th bar, you know, we could go to the 7th, but what we can do is do a temporary 2, 5 to get to the 4 chord. Now, you know, it's not like a 2, 5 in the key of B flat, it's a 2, 5 in the key of E flat. So 2, 2, 5, 1, you know, I mean, this is the 4 chord, but we're calling it the 1 chord because we're doing a 2, 5. All right, so let me go over this again in case you didn't get it. If you see my milk cow, won't you drive her on home? If you see my milk cow, won't you drive her on home? Now there, I started on the 4, there in the 2nd line, but I went to this diminished chord right here, which leads me back to the 1 chord, though it's not in root position, it has the 5 on the bass. And then we can go up to a 6 chord because in the cycle of fifths, the 6th chord will take you to the 2 chord, which is going to begin the last line. So let me do the 2nd line again. If you see my milk cow, won't you drive her on home? There's my 6th chord, 'cause I ain't had no cream or butter since my milk cow been gone. And the 6 and the 2 and the 5. So I think what we're going to try to do is decide what we're going to do on the 2nd line. And I think what it's going to be is going to be E flat and stay on E flat. Though basically you can do, you just change this one note and you can get that diminished chord if you want to do it. But let's stick to E flat. It can also go to the minor and then make that a 2-5 that goes back to the 1 chord. It's a 2-5 that doesn't lead where a 2-5 normally would lead. But let's just stick with E flat. My milk cow, won't you drive her on home? And then very typically here, common thing I've seen in like big band charts, especially at the intermediate school and high school level, is to start on the 4 chord. This is the 2nd line now. And then go to the 1 chord, the 4 chord, the 3, and the 6. And that takes you to the last line, which we already discussed, which is going to be a 2 chord, sometimes a dominant, but more often a minor. It really can be either one. And then the 5. And then we have 2 measures to do a turnaround, which is usually something very similar. It's like a 1 to a 6, and then a 2 to a 5. All right, so this is what I'm going to stick with. Chord symbols up there above my head. Let's get them in our head so we can get back to the previous video, okay? So here we go. If you see my milk cow, won't you drive her on home? See my milk cow, oh, won't you drive her on home? The 1, the 4, the 3, and the 6. 'Cause I ain't had no cream or butter since my milk cow's been gone. And just using this progression, be on B flat with the rootless voicing, back to B flat. You can do the 2-5 so easily, just like this. So that's the 2, and then this is the 5, and you can throw that in if you want. And then we get to the 4 chord, and then back to the 1, and the 4, and the 3, and the 6. 2, whole measure here, and the 5, and then a walk around the block. 1, 6, 2, 5. And there's like I said, there's a million ways of doing this. So you just got to pick one way and practice that till you're good at it, and then you can start putting in those little variations. So the 2 to the 5. All right, I now return you to your regularly scheduled program. And if you were using kind of the major scale on B flat, change it to the minor B flat scale when you get to E flat. The only thing that changes is you put the flat 3rd in instead of the 3rd. And you can still be kind of using the blues scale, or you can be using like a major scale that's got this flat 7 in there. And there you can use the same scale but with the flat. So I like to use this G note as well, especially with that flat 3rd up there. It makes a very funky line. trilling on that. Well, not trill, but, kind of go back and forth on it. And the other way works too. You can go, or you can go like that. Either one of them sounds pretty good to me. A blues riff that Oscar Peterson stole from Jerry Lee Lewis. No, I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know who came up with this first, but this. So it's just a B-flat triad, right? B-flat triad, another F down there. You slide off with that one. In some keys, you might have to actually use fingers to do that, like if you're an F sharp. You can't slide up to a black key, so you have to do it that way. So you could do it with 2 fingers here, right? In fact, I've heard it done this way, where you just hit the same note and kind of come down to there instead of, right? So you'll find just about anything goes when it comes to the blues scale. Now, another little word to the wise here is that if you jump around too much in the blues scale, like, it doesn't sound very bluesy. It sounds better to have most of the notes along the scale. Now, you can wiggle around. I would do that better. It's not a comfortable scale, even for me. See, I hardly ever skipped over a note. I might turn it around, but I don't like. But a few little skips are good. There's ways to make the skip sound good, but if you're just beginning, try to stay along the scale. Don't play staccato. A lot of students do that. Keep it kind of connected. In the blues, you can bang around on one note. But you want to practice playing more longer lines. Now, a typical kind of more of a old-fashioned style, and it's not. I say old-fashioned, but it's still being done today by many blues artists. You just go to the 5 chord, then the 4 chord, and notice I'm just playing the root, the 3rd, and the 7th on these chords. And then we have a turnaround, maybe something like that, and I'll give you some other turnarounds too, like, in a kind of a rock style. All right, I'm going to write some of this stuff out too for those of you who can read music. It'll be up there above my head, and also go down and like and subscribe the video, and while you're down there in the description, you can click on some links, and it'll take you right to the page, all right? No sideline to my website or any of that crap. Right to the page, print it out, look at it, save it, whatever you want to do with it. So, you make the initial jump to the 3rd and to the 7th, the flat 7, and then those notes move chromatically, right? Like that. Now, another way to do it is another kind of a variation of it. That's another variation. So that's chromatic there. And then, back to B flat, and the left hand just kind of follows. There. And then everything chromatic. That last little jump to B flat. And you can mess around with these things so much, like the basic one I showed you, like that, and then actually can be filled out into chords. Lots of different ways you could do it. All right, let's get into some heavy stuff now. Let's talk about the diminished scale. Now, the diminished scale is best used when you have like a dominant 7th chord with a flat 9, because the top portion of that chord is a diminished chord. So you get the B flat down there, but all this makes a diminished chord. And so looking at that diminished chord, you can take any note, any chord tone, and go up a whole step like that. Now, if you're thinking in B flat, you start with a half step, because that puts you on the flat 9. But from there, it's a diminished chord, so you go a whole step, all right? So, if you have a diminished chord, D diminished, you go a whole step first. But if it's B flat 7th, it's the same scale, but if you start on B flat, you'll find that that's the half step, see? Right there, B flat, and half step to the next one. So how would we use this? Just the blues scale now. And now I'm going to use the diminished scale. And the best part of it is right around that flat 9, sharp 9, thirds. So I'll go. It takes me right to E flat. Now I didn't really want to end on the note E flat, so let me see if I can do that better. Yeah, so I started on the jazziest of jazz notes, the flat 5. There's the chord, there's the flat 5. There's a half step there in the diminished scale, and then there's the 3rd, and then the flat 3 and the flat 2. You can call them different things, but that takes you right into E flat. I bet if I started here, I could get something good too. And it just comes from intuition and practice, knowing where you can start on the way you're playing a particular line to have it come out right. Like if I started here, it didn't come out right. I could have made it work. I could have gone and just ended one note early. I kind of anticipated the beat there. But anyway, just practice. Take those kind of lines. Go right back into the blues scale. And now in a jazz blues, on the the last line of the blues, there's 3 lines of the blues, 4 measures each. So it's usually like a C minor or a C dominant 7th. So that's a 2 chord going to a 5 chord. But we could use diminished in here too. Don't get away from the blues scale for too long, always keep a little element of the blues in there. All right, let's see if I can think of any other good ways to use the diminished scale. Well, you can kind of use it like that to get back to B flat. Now, sometimes, before you get to the last line, you've got a 3 chord, usually it's a half diminished, but not always, and then a 6 chord, which is a dominant. It doesn't normally appear that way, but the blues is just full of dominant chords, so I could, right there on that G7th, you can use it here too, but on the G7th it's going to be better. Or sometimes it goes to a C minor there. All right, so I'm just kind of following the chord here. And then on the G, there's the flat 5 and the 5 and the 3rd and the funky notes, the flat 9, the sharp 9. Or, you can just think of it as like the flat 2 and the flat 3. That's what it is. And since you have a lot of dominant chords, you could actually, use all diminished scales. So I use the correct diminished scale for each dominant chord. D, G, C, and then F. Okay, how about the altered scale? A lot of times in the blues, it'll be on B flat, it'll go to E flat, back to B flat, and then we have like an altered B flat. Right, now this is like a rootless voicing. I could even play it like that. And it goes down a half step to E flat, all right? And that's another kind of rootless voicing there. All right, now I've got a lot of videos about rootless voicings. I used to call them box voicings because my teacher, Ted Howell, taught it to me that way. We put them in a box and analyzed them and all that stuff. But now I just call them shape voicings because people thought I was talking about Johann Sebastian Bach. Box voicings. These are shape voicings because it's a kind of a shape, right? And the root is not there. So, like I said, you can be on B flat here, and then you kind of go to this altered chord. All right, so that's where I'm going to use the altered scale. Let's take a look at the scale. It starts off just like the diminished scale. All right. But doesn't have the fifth. All right, it's got the the flat 2 and the flat 3. Got the 3. Got the flat 5. But then it just goes in whole steps. Come up with a good line. Even taking the chord. You alter it to this. And that note can be in there too. And so that's a rootless voicing, a shape voicing. If you could figure out a way to turn that into a line, you got a good thing there. See? That's the inversion of this chord. Right? You can get to the C minor here. And a F, and these are rootless voicings as well for C and for F. And like I say, there's inversions, and there's usually like skip over this inversion and go down to this one because it gives you these nice shapes. All right, so you got C minor and F, C minor and F, either way, okay? And then you're going to B flat, and what is that? C, F, B flat. That's a 2-5-1. So if you want to learn how to play on that, you put up there in the search bar 2-5-1s, and then put Tony Winston after it, and you'll get my videos. But you can just put the numbers in there, and you'll get 100,000 different videos about how to play 2-5-1s. So basically, you use the B flat scale. For a 2-5-1. All right, so B flat scale. All right, now fancy it up. On the F chord, you can use something, a little bit hipper. All right, now if I went to this 5 chord, right, that's an altered 5 chord, or even just like a diminished chord like this, because it's an F 7th with a flat 9, and I could use the diminished scale. Here I could use the altered scale. Or I don't even have to get the scale right, the scale doesn't have to match the chord perfectly. It's nice when it does, Usually you want to learn how to do it, but it doesn't mean you have to do it that way. So I'm on the B flat scale for the 2 chord. And then I'm going to go to an altered scale here. And once again, I can look for the notes that are already there. All right. Oh, there's some fourths. Hey, let's talk about that. All right, there's the altered scale, just like the diminished scale, but no fifth. You got to skip over that one and put those notes in. So. something else. You can start to scale early, like even on C minor. I can. So before I even got to the F chord, I was already going like this. Fancy stuff to do on B flat. These are little enclosures, all right? And you can do them that way as well. Or check this out. Sorry. I got that from Chopin. You know, great jazz pianist, Frédéric Chopin. Comes from the Etude number 8 in F major, close to the end. He does something like that. Like that. He turned it into the blues. And that's that little 2-5-1 that gets you to the C minor. I said we're going to talk about some fourths here. Well, so look at the fourth voicings here. Are these really fourth voicings? Yeah, because look, all fourths except for that one. You know, sharp fourth, flat 5, whatever you want to call it, but it's not really a fourth. Not a perfect fourth. And then that one, that's going to be all fourths, but 7th would be better there. So, you know, if we're thinking about fourths, we can make these little patterns like this. Looks like little suspended chords. Or look for some other ones like that. Right. See? Let's take that G and move it up there. It looks like a suspended chord. Piano players use this all the time to show off, you know. I don't try to show off that much, so I don't do it that much, but I just try to come up with a line that makes sense to me. Okay, from this, you can go up a half step, and you know, this comes from a lot of, you know, study and experimentation. But if you're on that B flat altered, you see, I got it right there. B flat not altered yet because I'm just starting off. Now I'm going to alter it. And, yeah, that's it. You know, it's nice to end on cool notes too. Like if I was doing a line in E flat and I want to get back to B. Right. I ended on the flat 5. Okay? I'm going to end on the 9th this time. Okay. I'm going to end on the 13 this time. What is the 13? It's a part of the chord. All right, now let's do some rootless voicings here. We got B flat and then E flat. And I'm going to put my metronome on for this here. I might put a bass line with it later. 3, 4. just starting off, you can just use the thirds or just very simple 3-note chords. Keep your ideas super simple, because you can't get both things at once, right? You got to think about the chords till those are really solid, then you can get going with the right hand. I did not talk about pentatonic scale, so let me do that just a little bit. And it's the first 3 notes of the scale plus the 5th and the 6th. All right, that's all it is. When you hear about minor pentatonics, it's just like you take that pentatonic and apply it to a G minor. All right, and they call that a minor pentatonic. But all you need to know is the basic pentatonic and then how to apply it. Like for instance, when I get to this one right here, that B flat altered, I can use an E pentatonic. You say, E pentatonic? What the F? I mean, we're in the key of B flat. How can you use that? But check it out. See? It's right in the E flat, right? Because even though I'm calling this a B flat altered, these rootless voicings can be interpreted different ways. So it could be an E chord, so that's why it makes sense. In fact, anytime you're taking a dominant chord and making it an altered, like that, like a C sharp 9, for instance, just think a tritone away, F sharp, and do the pentatonic there. Right, there's the pentatonic, right? So you're on C. Right, going to F. But I mean, this works in jazz songs and all kinds of stuff. So there's that pentatonic. And a kind of a common thing here is to go, B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat to C, or a B flat, E flat, D, G to C. But you can do it like this. Just do it chromatic, right? Right? Because that could be interpreted as B flat to E flat to D to G, or other bass notes. So you can do pentatonics like this. I'll just use this part of the pentatonic. And then our 2-5-1. Oh, I don't know where I got that turnaround. I only do it in B flat because that's where I learned it. I guess I could do it in other keys, but B flat, go to a G, unaltered. Throw that thing in there. Go down a half step, and then, some kind of F altered, like that, and then back to B flat. Joe Henderson turnaround. All dominant chords going down in minor thirds. G13. I'm sorry, B flat 13. G13. E flat 13. Is that right? Yeah. It's not very good. No. I'll just use open voicings here for it. So G, exact same voicing, and B flat. More than enough material to keep you all busy for a while, and I'll see you again real soon. Thank you for tuning in.